Codominance. That's when there are two alleles that really one is not more dominant than the other. They both show up. So let's take a look at this. So two alleles are both expressed in the heterozygous individuals. Here's an example, blood type. If you're type A, we do them with I's because you have to figure out a new letter because neither A nor B is dominant. So here's type A. So you have IA, that means one allele for A, and then another allele for A. Or you could have this allele for A plus this recessive thing. This part, the big I and the little I, that really is the clear, plain old regular dominance. That's not a codominance thing. Let's look at type B. You can either be big B, which is IB, or you can be big B, the IB, or little I. So this is, again, a clear dominance thing. If you have both of the alleles for B or one allele for B and then this recessive one, then you're type B. Again, we use the I's because wait till you see what happens with type AB. If you have IA or IB, you're type AB. So if we had written them big A, little a, it would look like A was dominant to B. Or if we wrote big B, little b, it would look like B was dominant. If we wrote AB, then it would look like these were different genes. Because we tend to use the same letters for genes, and we just have the capital letter and the lowercase letter for dominant and recessive. So this one is the codominance one. This is regular dominance, but this one is the codominant one. So A and B are actually both expressed. So I think when we did this a few units ago, I said, hey, we're going to get to the genetics eventually, but I just want to show you this to start with. So we were looking at the surfaces of cells. And so here's a red blood cell. And sometimes there's these antigens on them. And the antigens are actually carbohydrates. And so there's an antigen, and I'm going to call this the A antigen. And they don't really look like A's, but they are some carbohydrate that's sticking out of the surface of the red blood cell. And so that would be A type blood. Sorry, I'm messy. You could have red blood cells that have the B antigen. And again, they don't really look like this, but they kind of look like B's the way I'm drawing them, right? But the idea is that these B antigens are different from the A antigens. So this is an A antigen, and that's a B antigen. So this is type B blood. So this carbohydrate looks different from that carbohydrate. And then the cool thing here is if you have type AB blood, here's your red blood cell, you've got the A antigen and the B antigen. And so they both show up. They're both there. A isn't any more prevalent than B. B isn't any more prevalent than A. They don't mix. You don't end up getting a red blood cell that has like some kind of mixed thing or whatever. I mean, it doesn't look, the antigen here doesn't look somewhere between A and B. It's not like having a pink flower instead of a red or white flower. Excuse me, you just, you have both the A and the B antigens there. They're their own separate antigens, and they just are both there. So that's what codominant means. They are both there, as one as much as the other. So like co-teachers, you're both in the room doing the teaching, same thing. And then the last blood type is type O, and that is the truly recessive one. If you have the lowercase one, that means that if you have the lowercase one and the B, you're type B, the lowercase one and A, you're type A. Two lowercase ones means you're type O. So if you have this red blood cell, then you have nothing on the surface. So here's a problem. There's a homozygous male, and he's type B. And I'm telling, yeah, so they're homozygous, so that means it's big B, big B. And he has a baby with a heterozygous female, and she's type A. So that's heterozygous, so that means these two are different. So she has the big A and then that plain recessive one. So what's going to happen? So here's the guy. He makes just sperm that are type B. So really you don't need the two lines here, these two. But anyway, it doesn't matter. You can put them in. So these are his sperm. The female makes two different types of gametes. She has the big A the I big A or the little I. So here's the dominant one, here's the recessive one. And so this is one of her eggs, and here's the other of her eggs. So if his sperm fertilizes that egg, you get the B and the A. And if the sperm fertilizes that one, then you get the B and the I. So let's see what that looks like. So half of the kids are type what? Type AB. And half of the kids are type B. So that if you have the recessive one, you're not type O unless you have two recessive ones. So half of them are type A and half of them are type B. This would be the genotypic ratio. The phenotype, I'm kind of oversimplifying when I say phenotype is what you look like, because the phenotype here, I would say, would be type AB blood, and the phenotype here would be type B blood. So it's not just what you look like, it's your physical characteristics, which is nice because that starts with a P as well. Your physical characteristics are your phenotype. So here's another codominance problem. Let's say you have a male who's type O and a female who's type AB. What kind of babies could they have? So the male will only have sperm that are little I. Okay, these two will separate, and some of the sperm will get that little I, and some of the sperm will get that little I, but that means they're all little I. When the female makes her eggs, some of the eggs are type A, and some of the eggs are type B. So you actually don't need this second row, but you could have it. So that means some of the babies are type A, and some of the babies are type B. So here's your genotypic ratio. So your genotypes are either AI, the A and the O allele, and or the B and the O allele, or your phenotype would be type A blood or type B blood. Another one, if a boy has a blood type O, so let's just analyze this. So here's a boy, and his blood type is O, which means he's little I, little I. And his sister has blood type AB. So we've gotten this much done. What are the genotypes and phenotypes of their parents? So this is really kind of a cool problem because you have to go backwards. You have to say, okay, if these are the genotypes and phenotypes of the kids, and they have the same parents, what are their phenotypes? So let's put the boy's genotype right here. That would mean that one parent would have to have a little I, and the other parent would certainly have to have a little I too. And the girl is A, B, so that means one of the parents would have to be type B, and the other parent would have to be type A, so that this could fertilize that, or vice versa, and you get AB. So let's fill in the other kids. They may or may not have other kids, but if they had another baby, there's a 25% chance that it could be type A, and 25% chance that that one fertilizes that, and the baby is type B. So this is kind of a cool problem. So if you're heterozygous B and your spouse is heterozygous A, you could have babies of any blood type. So the genotypes are here. The phenotypes are AB, A, B, or O. So they could have any of the phenotypes. That is kind of cool, huh? So there's the boy, there's the girl, just to run through it again. So you start with this. And so anyway, the parents are type A and type B. And their phenotypes are blood A and blood B, but they're both heterozygous as far as genotypes. Okay, another codominant blood type problem. Henry Anonymous, a film star, was involved in a paternity case. So someone said, hey, this is Henry Anonymous's kid, and he said, oh, no, it's not. Anyway, the woman bringing the suit had two children. This should say one of whose, how about this? Whose blood type was A. So she had a kid whose blood type was A, and the other type was B. So we don't know what the second allele was, but we know that one of them was type A and one of them was type B. Her blood type was O, the same as Henry's. So if her blood type is O, that means that's her genotype. And Henry's, if it's the same, is type O. That means every single kid must have type, these are little I's, I'm not drawing them very well, am I? Every single kid of theirs would be type O. That's the only kind they could be. So the judge in the case awarded damages to the woman, damages, oh my gosh, saying that Henry had to be the father of at least one of the children. Nope, afraid not. Poor Henry. Obviously, the judge should be sentenced to biology. Can you imagine a whole year of biology? Oh man. So for Henry to have been the father of both children, his blood type would have had to be what? Would have had to have been what? Okay, so mom's type type O, right? One of the kids is type A, and one of the kids is type B, and they're both heterozygous. Well, they'd have to be. So anyway, Henry would have to be the little I came from mom, that little I came from mom, so that one had to come from dad, and that one had to come from dad. So their daddy, if it was the same daddy for both kids, would have to be type AB. And it's not. Poor Henry. Oh, I did this backwards, but same answers. Okay, another codominance problem. We're away from the blood type finally. So in cattle, red hair color is coded for by the allele IR, big R's. White is coded for IWIW. Roan color, that means you have both red hairs and white hairs. So it sort of looks funny, almost pink. So these um, these cows have some red hairs and some white hairs. They don't have pink hairs. Um, but from a distance it would look like that. But anyway, some of their hairs are actually red and some of them are actually white. And so this is their genotype. You can't write RW because it looks like they're different genes. That's why we use an I. Same letter must mean the same gene. Here are the different variations. We can't use RR because that would say that red was dominant. We can't use W, little w, because that would say that white is dominant. So anyway, that's why we write them that way. So anyway, is this incomplete dominance or codominance? And the answer here is codominance, because if it were incomplete dominance, then the babies would be pink. They wouldn't have some red hairs and some white hairs. So if you have both red and white hairs, then you've got both traits, and so that's codominance. And that's it. So you need to know the difference between codominance and incomplete dominance. And we'll go over that more in class.